One of the things I continuously learn from you when looking back through history is how crazy American politics has been throughout history. It makes me feel a lot better about the current day.
It should.
Corruption,
Yes.
just the divisiveness also. Just the
Things have been way
insanity.
worse.
Stealing elections
Yes.
at all levels of government, and direct stealing and indirect stealing, all kinds of stuff. So is there stuff that jumps out to mind throughout history that's just like the craziest corruptions or stealing of elections that come to mind?
I'll give the micro and the macro. So my favorite example is Robert Caro, who I've probably talked about him a lot. God bless you, Robert. I hope you live to write your last book, because we really need that from you. But Robert came to Texas. He only intended on writing 3 books about Lyndon Johnson. He's currently completed 4, and he's on his 5th, and it's taken him over 40 years to write those. And one of the reasons is he just kept uncovering so much stuff. And one of them is book 2, Means of Ascent. He never intended to write it, but as he began to investigate Lyndon Johnson's 1948 Senate election, he realizes in real time how rigged and stolen it was. And so I often tell people, what if I told you that we lived in the most secure election period in modern history?
Yeah.
They wouldn't believe it. But if you read through that shit, I'm talking about bags of cash, millions of dollars, literal stuffed ballot boxes. It's great to be back here in Texas, because I always think about that place, like down in Zapata and Starr County. I'm talking like basically Mexico, where these dons were in power in the 1940s, and they would literally stuff the ballot boxes with the rolls, and they wouldn't even allow people to come and vote. They just checkmarked it all for you based upon the amount that you paid. Means of Ascent is the painstaking detail of exactly how Lyndon Johnson stole the 1948 Senate election. And so nothing like that, as far as I know, is still happening. Macro, we can talk about the 1876 election. Rutherford B. Hayes, one of the closest elections in modern history. It was one of those that got kicked with the House of Representatives. That was an insane time. The corrupt bargain that was struck to basically end Reconstruction and federal occupation of the South. And of course, the amount of wheeling and dealing that happened inside of that was absolutely bonkers and nuts. That was what an actual stolen election looks like, just so people know. So on a micro and a macro, yeah, that's what it really looks like. And so, look, I understand where people are coming from. Also, let's do what? 1960, that was pretty wild. I mean, in 1960, there was all those allegations about Illinois going for Kennedy. If you look at the actual vote totals of Kennedy-Nixon, wow. I mean, it's such an insanely close presidential election. And even though the Electoral College victory looks a little bit differently, Nixon would openly talk about, he's like, oh, old Joe Kennedy rigged Illinois for his boy. And he'd be like, and we didn't even have a chance in Texas with Lyndon pulling, like Lyndon stuffing the ballot boxes down there. So, and this is open on they openly admit this stuff. They talk about it. So actually, there's a funny story. LBJ lost his, I think it's 1941 Senate primary, and it's because his opponent, Pappy O'Daniel, actually outstole Lyndon. So they were both corrupt, but Pappy O'Daniel stuffed the ballot box in like the 5th day of the 7 days to count the votes. And FDR loved LBJ. And it's interesting, right? That FDR recognized Johnson's, his talent. And he goes, Lyndon, you know, in New York, we sit on the ballot boxes till we count them, because he's admitting that he, participated in a lot of this stuff. So this high level chicanery of stolen elections is actually an American pastime that we luckily have moved on from. And quite a lot of people do not know the exact intricate details of how wild it was back in the day.
Yeah, it's actually one of the things. It's harder to pull off a bunch of bullshit with all these cameras everywhere now.
Transparency too, lack of cash, banking regulations. There's a variety of reasons, but yeah.